When I was a boy, Babe Ruth was still a giant American hero, though he'd already retired from baseball. And like other boys, I had a secret dream of running into him someday and shaking his big mitt and having him look down and say, "Kid, how's it going?" The only way to write about Babe Ruth for me was in fiction, so here is his story, entitled The Babe. Our Lake Wobegon teams did not do well in 1986. The Whippets, with no pitching, finishing dead last, the Leonards, pitiful and helpless in the fall, even with a 230-pounder to center the offensive line. And now it's basketball season again, and already the boys are getting accustomed to defeat. When they ran out on the floor for the opener versus Bolus, who won 58-21, they looked pale and cold in their blue and gold silks, and Buddy had the custodian turn up the heat, but it was too late. These boys looked like they were on death row. They trembled as their names were announced. It's not defeat per se that hurts so much. We're used to that. It's the sense of doom and submission to fate that's awful. As Harry Cannacorn Knudsen wrote, "In the game of life we're playing, people now are saying that the aim of it is friendship and trust. I wish that it were true, but it seems for me and you that someone always loses, and it's us." Some fans have been led to wonder if maybe our Lake Wobegon athletes are suffering from a Christian upbringing that stresses the unworthiness angle and is light on the aspect of grace. How else would boys of 16 and 17 get the feeling that they were born to lose, if not in Bible class? And the uneasiness our boys have felt about winning. A fan can recall dozens of nights when the locals had a good first half, opened a nice lead, began to feel the opponent's pain, and sympathized and lightened up and wound up giving away their lunch. Does this come from misreading the Gospels? For a golden age of Lake Wobegon sports, you'd have to go back to the 40s. The town ball club was the Lake Wobegon Schroeders, so named because the starting 9 were brothers, sons of E.J. Schroeder. 9 big strapping boys with identical mops of black hair, big beaks, little chins, and so shy they couldn't look you in the eye. And E.J. was the manager. Though the boys were such fine ball players, he just sat in the shade on a white kitchen chair, grumbled at them. They didn't require management. E.J. was ticked off if a boy ever hit a bad pitch. He'd spit and curse and rail at him, and then R.J. would go up and pound one out of the park, making the score 11-0, and circle the bases, and the old man would say, "Boy, he put the old apple right down the middle, didn't he? Blind man could have hit that one. Your grandma could have put the wood on that one. If a guy couldn't hit that one out, there'd be something wrong with him, I'd say. Wind practically took that one out of here. Didn't even need to hit it much." And lean over and spit. When the Schroeders were winning every game, E.J. bitched about how they won. His sons could never please him, and if they did, he forgot about it. Once against Freeport, his oldest boy, Edwin Jim Jr., turned and ran to the center field fence for a long fly ball and threw his glove 40 feet in the air to snag the ball, and caught the ball and the glove and ran back to the bench and stood by his dad. E.J. sat chewing in silence, and finally he said, "I saw a man in Superior, Wisconsin do that a long time ago, but he did it at night, and the ball was hit a lot harder. He was mean. He could hit foul balls with deadly accuracy at an opponent or a fan who'd been riding him, or a member of the fan's immediate family. And once he fouled 28 consecutive pitches off the chest of the home plate umpire, for which he was thrown out of the old sod shanty league. So he coached his boys, never said a kind word to them, and they worked like dogs in hope of hearing one. And thus they became great, mowing down the opposition for 100 miles around. In 1946, they reached their peak, and that was the year Babe Ruth came to town with the Sorbisol All-Star Barnstorming team. The Babe had retired in 1935 and was dying of cancer. But even a dying man has bills to pay, and so he took to the road for Sorbisol, and Lake Wobegon was the 24th stop on the trip, a day game, November 12th. The all-star train of 2 sleepers and a private car for the Babe backed up the 16-mile spur into Lake Wobegon, arriving at 10 a.m. with a blast of whistle and a burst of steam, but hundreds already were on hand to watch it arrive. The Babe was a legend then, much like God is today. He didn't give interviews, in other words. He rode around on his train and appeared only when necessary. It was said that he drank Canadian rye whiskey, ate hot dogs, won thousands at poker, and kept beautiful women in his private car, Excelsior. But that was only talk. The sleepers were ordinary deluxe Pullmans. The Excelsior was royal green with gold and silver trim and crimson velvet curtains tied shut. Not that anyone tried to look in. These were proud country people, not a bunch of gawkers. Men stood by the train, their backs to it, talking purposefully about various things, looking out across the lake, and when other men straggled across the field in twos and threes, stared at the train and asked, "Is he really in there?" The first comer said, "Who?" "Oh, you mean the Babe? Oh, yeah, I reckon he's here all right. This is his train, you know. I doubt that his train'd go running around without the Babe in it now, would it?" And resumed their job of standing by the train, gazing out across the lake. A proud moment for them. At noon, the Babe came out in white linen knickers. He looked lost. A tiny black man held his left arm. Babe tried to smile at the people, and the look on his face made them glance away. He stumbled on a loose plank on the platform, and men reached to steady him, and noticed he was hot to the touch. He signed an autograph. It was illegible. A young woman was carried to him who had been mysteriously ill for months, and he laid his big hand on her forehead, and she said she felt something. Next day she was a little better, not recovered, but improved. However, the Babe looked shaky, like a man who ate a bushel of peaches whole and now was worried about the pits. "He's drunk," some said, and a man did dump a basket of empty beer bottles off the train, and boys dove in to get one for a souvenir, but others who came close to his breath said no, he wasn't drunk, only dying. So it was that an immense crowd turned out at the Wally Old Hard Hands Bunsen Memorial Ballpark. 20 cents per seat, 2 bits to stand along the foul line, and $1 to be behind a rope by the dugout, where the Babe would shake hands with each person in that section.